Hello guys, one of Russia's national traditions is to blame others for their own mistakes and failures. And now when the head of the Russian Central Bank, Elvira Nibulina, announced that 2026 is going to be worse than even 90s for the Russian economy, millions of the Kremlin supporters, including Putin himself, started blaming the central bank, the Minister of Finance, for these failures, for these serious problems, of course, caused by Putin's failed blitzkrieg, then enormous expenditures on a very long and bloody war, and of course, sanctions. And I agree that this will be worse than the 90s crisis because now even companies like Gazprom, LUKOIL, AEROFLOT, more Russian aviation companies report tremendous problems. They are already on the brink of bankruptcy. They are shouting about that, but nobody hears them because Putin repeats that everything goes according to the plan. So let's discuss what is happening right now with the Russian LUKOIL, Gazprom, AEROFLOT, and why it brings us to the crisis worse than it was in 1990s. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. This is important, and do push a notification button to get all the updates and learn more about the destruction of military targets inside Russia. So let's begin with these reports coming from the official Russian institution, the central bank. They had Elvira Nibulina, whom of course I don't like, but many describe as a very professional person that managed to save Russian economy during these years of very exhausting for Russia War II. When she said that 2026 is going to be worse than 90s, and 90s were very bad years. Trust me, I was born in 1984, before the collapse of the USSR, and I remember 90s. These were the years, my school years. And to have two sweaters, you were lucky. So Russians also know what it means if they are heading to a crisis worse than it was in the 90s. And there are signals that demonstrate the situation will be bad. That bad that it can actually lead to the natural dissolution of the Russian Federation. So Nibulina predicts that if sanctions continue, the production of oil continues as OPEC countries promise. Plus, more and more places are prepared to drill, especially with the support of Donald Trump. The price on oil will keep dropping. And that's exactly what destroyed the USSR back in the end of 80s, the beginning of 90s. That's why Kremlin propagandists are terrified. They understand, they smell this danger. And that's beautiful. Thumbs up for that. So anyway, if the price for oil drops to $35 per barrel, Russia is destroyed without any bullets, drones, Taurus or Tomahawks. And this is exactly what will happen. Because, well, first of all, Russia is not very competitive on the oil market anymore after the Ukrainian drone sanctions, and there are lots of other countries prepared to substitute this paper tiger on the market. And the Russian budget that is already empty, that already forecasts very negative income in the year to come, was like fixed on at least $40 per barrel. 35 destroys them totally. And Nibulina speaks openly about that. It's not that she is fearless because, people drink tea or jump out of windows if the Kremlin dictator is dissatisfied with their data. But perhaps the situation is so harsh that she cannot hide it from people. Plus, more and more companies collapse on Russian market. Companies that were associated with wealth, with prosperity, with Putin's friends, oligarchs. By the way, that might be a reason that inspires a coup against the Kremlin gobbling, not their desire to stop the war, not their desire to save Ukrainian or even Russian lives, but the understanding that Putin destroys all the businesses, that he burns all the money inside Russia. $1 trillion was taken out from banks by ordinary Russians. They do not trust their deposits to the Russian banking system. And these are ordinary people, unexperienced people who make their decisions based on the news, and they are scarce based on reading Telegram channels and witnessing explosions on various military sites in dozens of the Russian regions. And oligarchs know more. And they sense the bankruptcy of LUKOIL, of Gazprom, or of AEROFLOT. Well, we've talked a lot about AEROFLOT and their new approach to cannibalize aircraft, but new companies, new aviation companies joined the pool of these zombies. And this is S7 and Ural Airlines. These were successful aviation companies, growing businesses with foreign flights to the European Union and elsewhere. And now they cannot afford even cannibalizing their aircraft because they don't have enough. For example, in that S7 aviation company, they were using foreign engines, Pratt and Whitney. Another proof that Russia is not competitive on the international market. Being the largest country in the world, it has a really small GDP, smaller than of some American states. And they do not produce a lot of things. They simply sell their raw resources like oil and gas that keep exploding. By the way, a series of very important gas stations and gas deposits were demilitarized too. Let me know, would you like a video about that? But it's super important to understand that with their resources and explosions on this important for the Russian energy production facilities take away this opportunity. Russians do not produce engines, computers, mobile phones, nothing like that. And they were buying that Pratt and Whitney engines, and now they cannot because of sanctions. Thumbs up for sanctions. And more and more aviation companies announce they are bankrupt and stop operating. The number of aviator passengers dropped tremendously during these years, and each of these persons understands that Russia is losing and Russia is destroying itself from within. Subscribe to witness that collapse together. Trust me, it's coming. Trust my 90s experience. And LUKOIL is prepared to sell a lot of its assets outside the country. Approximately, they have 40 billion in capital and 10 billion, 1/4, is foreign. And they are prepared to sell it literally for nothing, losing a lot. Gazprom on the brink of the collapse. And for example, LUKOIL had 2,400 gas stations outside Russia, and because of the new White House sanctions, they have to close it. And they try to frighten the world that this will lead to problems in your countries, but no, there are dozens of other countries prepared to substitute Russia on the oil market. There are dozens of other countries prepared to be born on the territory of the Russian Federation after the collapse of the Kremlin regime. Don't be afraid of that. That is a totally natural process that we simply have to analyze, predict, and control. Let me know, are you available this Saturday, 9 p.m. Kyiv, for our live? Lots of important topics to discuss, and by the way, I will be very grateful for the ideas in the comments below. What would you like to discuss with me next time? And remember to support our new fundraiser with United 24 that helps to get new equipment for eye clinics. You know that a lot of people lose their eyesight because of war, explosions, and many of this debris are now of plastic or wood. It's really difficult to extract out of people's eyes, and it's not like metal that you can take away with a magnet. So if you want to read more, check the comment that I will pin as the first one, and support. This is indeed a very good thing, and millions of Ukrainians are grateful for that. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord. You will find the links in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch shop. A lot of good items that magically turn you into the ambassadors of Ukraine, reminding the world about our fight and the need to defeat Russia. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!